So, how did the women of 19th century society feel about the famous courtesans who were sleeping with their sons, brothers, and even their husbands? Well, of course, women of good breeding were expected to have no knowledge of this type of woman, or at least to pretend as though they had no knowledge of them. This became particularly difficult in the 19th century, particularly in Paris, as courtesans were quickly becoming some of the most well-known celebrities of the time. They rode in the same parks, lived on the same streets, sat next to each other at the opera, and shopped at the same dressmakers. There's one story about a countess and a courtesan who turned up to the same dressmaker at the same time, and the courtesan was actually served first because the dressmaker knew that she was a wealthier and more generous client. Now, obviously, a lot of women disliked this, and the advice for the time was to cut off any other member of high society who acknowledged courtesans in a public setting. But some women were really fascinated by courtesans. They liked to copy their clothes, their carriages, and even began to copy their style of flirting with men. On one occasion, the Comtesse Louise de Mercy-Argenteau and her friends, a princess and a duchess, snuck into a masked ball being held by the courtesan Cora Pearl in Paris. They spent the whole night snooping through her rooms and watching how the other courtesans dressed and acted. Another way that curious women could get an acceptable glimpse into the lives of courtesans was by going to their homes when they were holding auctions. If a courtesan was moving out or she had died, and that her belongings would be put on sale, people could come to her home to have a look around, under the pretense of like, oh, I just want to buy some new furniture. Courtesans were actually very aware that there was this interest from respectable women, and would often sometimes pretend to put their homes up for sale just to give the women of Paris the opportunity to come and have a snoop.